Hey, Andrew, welcome back to the couch, man.
Hey.
It's cool.
So, you look a little different. You have a healthy glow about you.
You got a little bit of sun.
What's about the shirt?
Got a little sun in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, heartbreaker. Shaka bra, what's up? If anybody's out there watching.
Old men make trips around the world at certain points, and one of them is Hawaii, and you have to do it. That's part of old man.
Yeah, well, I had to celebrate my 18-year anniversary with my wife.
Correct. Awesome.
And also spent some time with a good friend of mine who's still in the active duty Navy.
Yep.
And so got to go see Pearl Harbor, some really cool stuff there too.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Very, very cool.
Good time to go too.
Yeah. And also it was really cool because not to dive too deep down the well, but my grandfather joined the Navy right after the attack on Pearl Harbor because he felt compelled, like many young men during that time frame. Little did I know he was 16 at the time that he joined.
I think a lot of that.
Yeah.
A lot of 16, 17-year-olds.
Yeah, sneaking in to serve their country, and he became a corpsman, which is a Navy medic.
Yep. Which
led to him being a Marine for 2 years out in the Pacific Theater and doing all that crazy stuff that you see in the World War II movies for the Pacific Theater. As a medic, which included he was on the second wave that hit the beaches in Iwo Jima.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So when I served and I read Flags of Our Fathers, which is about the Marines who raised the flag on Iwo Jima. Yeah. And I was talking to him about it and spoke to him about it, and he actually knew every single one of the Marines who did that because he also treated those Marines. And additionally, he not just treated those Marines, but he also remembers when some of those Marines died on the battlefield later on in the war. When he went to Pearl Harbor for his deployment out to the Pacific Theater while the Marines were still doing their training, he actually was, if anybody's seen the movie Pearl Harbor, then you'll remember they had sailors out on rowboats, no easy way to say this, fishing dead sailors and bodies.
And there's a remembrance to that. I've been to Hawaii many times. When I was there, there's always a Japanese coin in this too. So we love Japanese culture, konnichiwa. From a gaming point of view, they're like dominant, like one of the powers.
Well, I mean, and just dovetail it with that. I mean, when you think of World War II, 2 nuclear bombs dropped on a country, to go from abject devastation and defeat and capitulation to now being one of our strongest, if not one of the best ally we have in the Pacific. Sure. Additionally,
for kind of friends they've been amazing.
For our nations and our cultures to coalesce with one another like they have over the last, almost 80 years now, right?
In some ways, we're culture
closing in on 100 years since World War II.
No, it's crazy.
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, no, it is beautiful.
And to see how far we've come.
So, how far we've come and stuff. We've done like so many episodes of gamer, right? Yeah. And one of the first games that I ever met Seth playing is World of Tanks.
What?
And he had like all these other games. He's like, no, I'm playing World of Tanks. And so over the years, he'll get into that. But there's been so many systems he's played World of Tanks on, and you're pretty good at it.
Yeah. When I was a regular player on PC, I found myself rated on the North American server.
Let's stop. When did you first find out about World of Tanks? Go back that memory.
Oh my goodness. World of Tanks came out in January of 2011. Wow. So 13 years ago. And I downloaded and started.
My thought was, I hope they don't screw this up. I hope this is around in 3 years. Okay.
Yeah. Well, clearly been around now for 13.
It's still going strong.
So
lots of numbers.
All I knew from my time in the military is here is a first-person realistic shooter that takes strategy, 15 on 15 real-world combat, so it's an actual competition, and you are playing in vintage World War I to World War II. And
let's go back to old man gamers. Yeah. Let's go back to our childhood. Okay, so first of all, we had Battlezone, right? But before that, we had Atari Tanks, which is 2 little tanks on a field.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a cool game. Like, that was cool because you actually had your friends, there's a little strategy going on.
Yeah, you really go behind
the little control, because that's tank controls.
Yeah, and remember you had to go behind the little things, and then they could shoot the thing and destroy your cover.
And that was like Pong on the next level.
Yes.
Right? And then Battlezone was like an arcade using vector graphics.
Oh yeah.
And you had the tank controller, and you're like, oh my god, I want to get destroyed again. You're like, it was the first.
So you're looking through the periscope, and you're actually like trying to.
To me, it was the first-person shooter.
Yes.
In my mind, it was like that feeling you get when you're running like, oh crap, I mean, just shoot that thing real quick. Like there's Doom or whatever, but this was actually the first thing that gave you that.
Yeah, I concur.
Big screen.
Battlezone 100%. And the thing was that you were in your periscope.
Yeah.
Looking through your ocular scope while it's focused in, and you're using these two hand controls. And here's the crazy part about that. You ready for this? If you go set foot inside of an M1A2 SEP 4, whatever they're up to now, if you go step inside of an Abrams or a Bradley, it's kind of what the firing mechanism is like. Yeah.
It's tank controls.
You hold on to two joystick-like things right here. You've got buttons for selecting your fire and all that other good stuff and what kind of rounds you want to do and squeezing triggers, and you line it up on this and you line your cameras up and your crosshairs up and you do what soldiers do when they have big guns and armor.
Now fast forward a little bit was the Star Wars arcade machine, which was just another ramped up Battlezone but in flight, right? Yes. But it introduced the flying thing with vector graphics. So that kind of started the whole flight stuff. I don't get into the whole history of that. But let's get back to World Tanks. So Tanks has this history in the arcade, has history at home with tank games, and then it's like, you know, we're playing all these modern first-person shooters, Call of Duty, whatever. This came out during that time. So we're like, that's just gonna be a minor thing.
Well, because here's the thing. So you had Wargaming that came out with this game, and they were a Russian development studio with a lot of folks in Belarus and Ukraine as their developers.
And this is 2000. What year?
2011. So this is 2011. So 10 years after the formation of the country of Ukraine, and Belarus is a close neighbor after the Cold War.
Just a decade.
And this studio had this brainchild in like 2008, 2009, and they went to work and they started doing the alpha and the beta testing, and they released it in the Russian language to the Russian market, and it blew up. It was, and I mean that in a positive, not negative way, punny way, that it blew up in the market, and then at that point, what happened?
Didn't tank.
Yeah, it did not tank. It was true. Wow. But out of that, what happened was they went and created and developed the English version, and then they released to North America and Europe.
So they tested and demoed it in Russia.
Yeah.
It's a runaway hit on fire.
Yes, and then
they had enough gas to get to Europe.
Yeah.
To actually release it.
And that's the beautiful part, is that Wargaming has successively. I was there when I initially downloaded it. You asked when I started playing. I started playing in version 1.2.
Wow.
So 1.1, then you had 1. Which was the beta, and you had 1.1, which was the first release. They had 3 countries. They had America, Germany, and Russia.
That was it.
And Russia was actually the Soviet Union. Right? Because we're talking World War I to the 1960s. But there was only a handful of tanks to play on top of that.
Well, who made those Russian tanks during World War II?
Well, we could go down the Lend-Lease program, which led to the development of the Russian tank program, and they've been pretty much doing it ever since. You know, lifting. In fact, there was just a news article that came out that they've captured Abrams on the battlefield, and they've captured Bradleys on the battlefield, and Leopard tanks on the battlefield, and they took them back to Moscow. And of course, the first thing they did to these inferior armor pieces was to tear them apart to figure out how they work and what they can use for their own stuff. And then after they did that, then they turned around and they, like, in a public square during a Victory Day parade, like, went and did counterweights on the gun tubes and bent them, and just, I could go for days on this. But anyway, point is that they're doing what the Russians and the Soviets and to an extent some of the Chinese have been doing for technology for years. They don't come up with their own stuff, they lift off of other people's stuff.
Of course.
And then they refine it and they do make it better at times, and a lot of times they just...
With this game, is there a lot of stats? Is there a lot of knowledge? Is it accurate? Is it crazy? Like,
so I
played it casually, and I'm like, what's there in this French tank and this German tank and this British tank? And do I need it in all scenarios? And like, you know.
No. So that's kind of the beauty of this game, is that you can just go rip it and grip it and go have a fun time shooting stuff. But
no knowledge.
Just go and play. Just don't shoot your teammates.
And how do you start out?
Don't team kill. Don't shoot your teammates.
You can team kill.
You can't, well, you used to be able to. I think they've put guards in place, but you can still be shooting, and your teammate crosses in your line of fire, and you shoot and hit your teammate. And they have mechanisms now in place that recognize that I was shooting at an enemy, but that dipstick pulled in front of me. What do I do, right? Which is actually pretty combat realistic in that sense.
You gotta save your life. Somebody has to be sacrificed.
Yeah, so
they got their
and there's physics within this, so that heavier tanks can push smaller tanks.
What physics are in this?
Oh man, you can actually so one, you can ram.
I apologize to all our viewers.
Yeah, so you can actually ram another tank with a bigger tank going full speed and kill the other tank because you've done more damage to them than you've done to yourself. You can also ram a larger tank with a smaller tank, kill yourself, but end up killing the other tank, and there's actually an achievement for that.
But, like in the U.S. military, they would never advise that.
No, they would not advise you running your tank into another tank. They would rather you shoot it from distance.
And how much do these tanks cost?
Well, in real world dollars, I want to say that each Abrams, I think, is somewhere between $8 to $10 million a piece. No, I take that back. I think they're like $100 million a piece.
What?
Yeah, I think each one.
We'll backtrack that later. That's coming.
Yeah, we're gonna have
get off the money thing. Yeah,
sorry. And I think each Bradley is somewhere around like 25 or so. So yeah, it's pretty hefty price tag.
Yeah.
But the beautiful part is there is no price tag on these. This is a free-to-play game.
That's right.
You don't have to pay to play this game. You can go online, go on your console, download the game, play for free. Now, don't get me wrong; they have a premium paid version.
How do they make money?
Well, they do have.
Wait, okay. This is what I want to do for Old Man Gaming. There's the price list, right? But then where does Old Man Gaming get sucked in and get yelled at by their wife? Good. That's our line.
Yeah, where do I get sucked in and yelled at by my wife?
Where do you cross that line where it's affordable, then you went beyond affordable? Okay. You know it's happened to you. I don't even have to know.
Yeah.
So that's when we're talking Old Man Gamers about this whole pricing, because that's helped people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So cost-wise, where you can get in trouble with this is they have the premium accounts that you can play, and you can actually
free to start.
Free to start. You can.
You're not getting game. You have a little money.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal: is that you can actually play this game for free and not get in trouble.
Right.
But then where the trouble starts to arise is that you have the premium paid services, which means you get double the XP, more credits when you fight, and they actually show you, non-premium and premium. It doesn't affect your rank because that is your skill in the tank on the battlefield.
Okay.
So you can find yourself ranked really high and still be playing a free-to-play game, but it takes longer to unlock the tiers of tanks because each tank has modules. So, for instance, like the engines, and it's historically accurate to the tank, so there might be additional engine modules, right? So they had the first version of this tank rolled out, and then they refined it, and then they refined it some more, and they have 3 different engines that you've got to go through. So the first one comes when you get the tank. Right. Then the second one comes through experience and buying it with the in-game credits.
You can crunch through it, take your time for free, or
you can grind.
I want to get that limited edition, like this is an awesome tank, and basically get there faster.
Yeah, absolutely. You gain free XP regardless, but when you're in a premium account, which can be up to $100 for, you pay them $100 and you get a year subscription.
Oh. So it's like $100 a year for a normal subscription.
$100 a year for a normal subscription. You can pay, I think it's like $60 a year for a 6-month subscription.
Got it.
$20 for
So subscription-based model.
Yeah.
Is there an upper limit though? Can you keep spending money, or is it?
Well, yeah. I mean, like this just is. They've got premium tanks. Some of the premium tanks are actually worth your time.
So there's packages you can download for X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
Limited deals.
Exactly,
sales.
and you can get in-game gold instead of the silver credits, which is paid for real-world money turned into in-game currency. And you can convert that into experience. Right. You convert it into the currency you need to buy tanks.
Typical gotcha model.
Yeah, but the thing about
it's reasonable.
But it's absolutely reasonable because the thing that really I think World of Tanks really excels at is no matter what, they've left it a free-to-play game.
Right.
And you are not negatively impacted.
Right.
By playing the free-to-play game. No. You still have access to all of those regular tanks within what they call the tech tree. So what started for me with the Russian line had light tanks that went to medium, and it branches off, and you have medium tanks and heavy tanks, right? Yeah. So then you have 2 tech tree lines.
Right.
And what's happened is that over time, over this last 13 years, they've uncovered prototype designs that never made it out to the battlefield. They never went into production.
A lot of historian, a lot of accurate.
Yeah, there's a lot of accurate historical stuff within here.
Are they still made in Russia, like this game? Is it?
No. Now here's okay.
Quickly.
I will try to be as quick as I can with this. So remember I told you that it's a Belarusian Russian company with Ukrainian programmers.
Yeah.
So
what's going on now?
The massive amount of their programmers were in Ukraine.
Yeah.
So Wargaming, their online service support, their actual game programming support was all out of Ukraine.
Wow.
So what ended up happening was that they repositioned at the outset of the war in Ukraine, the Russo-Ukrainian War. They repositioned their corporate headquarters outside of Belarus.
Yeah, a lot of
and they put it into Europe.
Yep.
And one of the reasons they did that was because when the war broke out, they started continuing to pay and support their Ukrainian programmers who now don't have jobs or the ability to get online on the internet to do the work because there's a war.
Right, there's a war right now. It's awful.
Yeah, look, hey, somebody just blew up all of our infrastructure, so I can't even make a phone call to you, right?
So they weathered the storm, they moved to Europe, they're still operating.
So now they're considered enemies of the state of Russia.
Right.
But Russians still play the game. I'm just saying. And so
they're Russian. They like
and so
where's chess popular?
And they have
this is a strategy game. This is strategic. This is not just shoot, play Battlezone.
Yeah, and so they also have because like I said, like I was going to say a little bit earlier when you were talking about you can just plug in and play and have fun, rip it, have a blast.
Okay, so stop real quick. $100 gets you for a year about that.
Yeah,
and then you're good. You don't have to buy extra stuff. Just don't do it. Don't get your Raptor wife mad at you.
Yeah.
Okay. The second thing is besides the money aspect. How much time would be good to play with friends online with it's a great audio thing. I can talk to you. I can talk smack.
Yeah, 100% in game or on.
Is it trigger happy? Is it like the 14-year-olds dominate, or is it strategy?
No,
this is like how old man gaming has to look at this.
Yeah, this is okay. So if we're looking at it that way, no, I absolutely can dominate.
There's a reason why you like this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as I was about to say, was the fact that as you go up in the tiers, because it goes from tier 1 to tier 10, tier 10 being the penultimate tank, 1968-70 version tank, and when you start getting into the higher tiers, once you get past about tier 5 and up, you start having to think about using terrain, going hull down, which means having your hull below the terrain but your turret up above, which has stronger armor, angling your armor so that the physics behind that I was talking about is not just pushing tanks, it's also the fact that when I look face on dead on, there are actually weak points on the front of an armor, but that is the strongest part of a tank is always the front of the tank versus
the back.
The back or the sides, correct, and if I can flank to that side. But here's the thing, big tanks, and they have different tiers. They have light tanks, medium tanks, heavy tanks, tank destroyers, and also self-propelled guns, artillery.
And there's different tiers, right?
Yes.
There's mastery classes on this stuff. So, question. So if I get in a game, how many of my friends can play?
You can have up to 15 players per side of the match.
It's big.
It's big. It's 15 on 15.
How big is the maps?
Depends on the map. Some are huge. Some are very intimate.
Battlefield versus Call of Duty?
It's both.
They have both. Yeah.
It's both. So I mean, you could find yourself on a map that's relatively small, and you're going to face the enemy quickly off the gate. Yeah. You're also going to have larger maps where being a heavy tank is a little bit cantankerous and difficult because, much like when we were talking about Mech Warrior, you're slower, you're lumbering, you're a heavy tank, you got a lot of armor, but you pack a massive punch. But your cannon takes a while to reload. So you need those medium tanks and light tanks to scout, medium tanks to go ahead and give you fire support while you're fighting.
So I'm one of our people watching this. Oh man, yeah. What would you advise them to do to get in this game? Just tell them what to do. Step one, they got it.
Step one, download the game on your PC or your console.
Okay. What's it play on?
It plays on PC, Mac, and also Xbox, and also on PlayStation.
What about Nintendo?
It does not play on Nintendo.
Does it play on the Switch?
Nope, not that I'm aware of. But you can also download the mobile app as well, which is Wargaming, which is World of Tanks Blitz.
And how's that?
Which is fun. Except it feels just like the game, just you're on your phone, which is a smaller screen, which I personally don't like because my eyes. But
so wait, back to console.
Yeah, if you're on console, it's called World of Tanks Modern Armor, because they also have a Modern Armor portion of it, which speaks to you can eventually move past those. That's when we start getting like main battle tanks and things like that. The stuff we would recognize, Bradleys, Abrams, and things like that, and the T-72.
So I get in, I buy the $100 thing.
You don't even have to buy your $100 thing.
I get in for free to check it out.
You get in for free to check it out and play it. You like it.
Thing.
Okay, you do the $100 thing.
Now, how to call my friends up? What do I do?
So what happens is that you say, "Hey, I downloaded this game," and then Andrew goes and downloads the game.
Right.
And you don't even have to Discord. You can do it actually in the game.
Yeah, most
right?
of PlayStation.
But you can go to Discord, whatever.
Want to be private.
And what you do is you go, "Hey, Andrew, download the game. Here's my screen name." And then you friend each other.
Yep.
And it literally shows when you're both online together, and you right-click their name and you say, "Team up, squad." Well, I want to create a squad, and you can have a squad of 4.
Okay.
So you and 3 other of your friends can squad up together,
and the squads can squad.
And then the squads can squad up, but that's a little bit more difficult because you have to hit the button at the same time and hope you both get put in the same.
So you can have to do 4 guaranteed.
Yeah.
If you have 16 buddies, it's hard to unless you get a private server.
Yeah, if you have 15 buddies, well, no, you can. You can do what's called clan wars, which then if you have a clan and you have 15 of your friends, you can create your own combat room and then invite other people to that combat room, and you can all 15 on 15.
So this might be a good way to get some of your old buddies together.
Oh, 100%.
Have a fun game, play for like a night.
Oh yeah.
Once a month, once every 2 weeks, once a week.
And just pound on each other.
And just have fun. And talk smack. How long is the game? How long is the round last usually?
Well, it's a 15-minute round.
Okay, so it's easy.
Yeah, you got 15 minutes. And so you get 15 minutes, but depending on how the match goes, it could go close to 15 minutes because it's capture the flag, for lack of a better way to put it. Or total other team death destruction. You destroyed all the other tanks.
Yeah.
On the other team, or they've done it to you. But it really is just, it could go for 15 minutes, it could go for 4 or 5 minutes.
I was shocked you gave it a 2 out of 10 for Omega.
You're funny. You're funny. Now, for the Old Man Gamer score, since I'm the avid gamer and I've been doing this for 13 years, I am highly biased, but I'm definitely going to tell you.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've been playing it for 13 years, so this is a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that
it's free.
It's free. You
easy.
can play this game, plug in, you load into your game, you play 1 or 2 matches, and if your wife asks you to leave and go do something, yeah, you're kind of screwing over your other team and dropping them in the middle of a match.
Yeah, but it's not a big deal.
But it's not a big deal. You're just going to have to
absorb it. Actually rank going, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Well, and that was just it, is when I was playing this on the PC avidly and really focused on playing the game, I was in the top 1,000 within certain rankings. So there's 75 million registered users of this game. And on the North American server, I was in the top. I had gone from the top 1,000 to the top 500 players in North America.
Yeah.
Just doesn't mean anything other than I was in the top 500 players. And then with light tanks for scouting and using light tanks, I was in the top 100 players.
Quick weird question from any fan that's World of Tanks. What's your favorite tank?
It used to be the T-50 before they nerfed it.
Oh, okay.
Which is a Soviet
how long ago
light
did they
tank. Well, they did it a while back.
Right.
So I mean,
now, so that's one of this month, this week, what will be the only tank you like to play in?
Gosh,
just give a flavor.
That's so hard.
Is it French tank?
No, each one has its own gameplay style. You really have to say which nation's tanks do I like.
All right, which nation's tanks overall?
I like to play the Soviet tanks. Because they don't have, because penetration is how well.
There's a Soviet name.
Is how well they punch through the armor.
Yeah.
They've got decent penetration, not as great accuracy, but man, they pack a wallop.
Yeah.
So, and the more experience you get, the better you get on dropping your shells in where they need to go, and the next thing you know, you're popping somebody way faster than you want. But I also really like playing American tanks.
Well, yeah.
And the main challenge with American tanks, they can get squishy pretty fast because their turrets are freaking rock solid, but they get squishy fast as far as the main body.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah, but the thing is that their gun is highly accurate. Their guns are really accurate, relatively accurate. I mean, it's a tank gun.
Yeah.
But they're relatively accurate, and they got really good they've got better than average penetration.
So
they do better than average.
You like this game? I don't want to cut you short. We're trying to be better on our schedule.
Yeah.
So you have 10 out of 10 for old man gamers. Normal gamers that are playing.
Yeah, single gamers. I'm gonna give them, dude. If you're a big fan of, if you're a fan of strategy, learning how to actually maneuver whatever it is that you're playing, and learning how to better use the equipment or gear that you have, just like Call of Duty type. If you're an FPS player, this game's a 10 out of 10 on that as well.
And so family gamers?
Yeah, and family gamers, 100% this is a 10 out of 10. And the reason why I'm giving it 10s across the board for everybody is because there's no blood, there's no gore.
Right.
You can put a profanity filter so the chat doesn't show any profanity. It literally gives it the little asterisk. Yeah. And if you don't want your kid on voice chat, don't turn on the voice chat.
Right.
And other than that, I was part of a clan that had a lot of older players in it, and I'm not meaning old players, I'm just older, more mature players.
Not 15-year-olds.
But we also had 3 or 4 players who were really good, who were in their teens.
Yeah.
And we as old man gamers in that group, we all had a great time with them, but also a majority of us were also prior military on top.
Right.
And so we also, though, as dads, we would filter for content with the teenagers.
Right.
And knowing that there might be a parent on the other end, we want to be respectful of
speakers and computer room.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's the beautiful part is that the community within there also, once you get plugged in and start playing with other clans,
they're very welcoming.
Yeah, they're very welcoming. Everybody's trying to do something
and have fun,
and a lot of people are just there to have fun. Cool little factoid. The Israeli military utilizes this game as a way to train their tank commanders.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of training online for
There's a lot of militaries worldwide that actually use these as ways to train on.
Final thought.
Been playing it for 13 years now.
No, it's a great game.
No,
it's a great game. I'm not gonna say
it's because it's just a game that you can plug into.
No.
Have fun.
It hasn't changed. I mean, it's kept its level of interest throughout all this time period. It keeps updating itself.
And they do fun little contests and stuff like that.
If you're on Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, there's always free World of Tanks stuff they're putting out every month.
Yeah.
Encourage you to try
Prime Gaming does the same thing.
Yeah, Prime Gaming, Amazon, on PC stuff. There's a fun factor to it. There's always seasonal stuff, and to me, it's a game that's it's Battlezone, but so improved. And you can play with friends, and it's so any old gamer who haven't tried it, definitely try it. Hey, so we're back. Now, that's the World of Tanks. Now we're going into something different. Something no one's watched this year. It's such a hidden little gem. I want to bring it to you because we're one of the first living people on this.
I know. This is a must-watch. If you've never heard of it, you've got to go out and find it.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's Hulu and FX's Shogun.
Which everybody's saying. I've watched 5 minutes of it, and I've held back because I switched from Hulu to YouTube, and I'm going to switch back to Hulu again. So YouTube's just been weird this year.
Yeah.
It's pricing and everything else. So I'm done.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this. I've watched since day one.
Yeah.
First.
Episode.
I have been waiting for every episode every week. Last week on Tuesday while I was on vacation, they dropped the 10th episode of season 1. I just started watching it. And
no spoilers.
No spoilers. I will tell you this. I have a really bad habit of watching a series even when I'm binging an entire series, to go all the way to the last episode and not go watch the last episode.
You don't like that?
Yeah.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, and it's
anyway.
And then you're finally okay.
7 months later,
I gotta watch the last episode.
We watched one before, just right.
And the thing that I'm hoping is promising is I believe there's a season 2 for sure.
Right now, Bad Batch Star Wars, I'm not watching the last couple episodes because I'm just the same way.
I can't bring myself to watch the last season at all just because I don't want it to end. I know.
Hey, back to Shogun.
So Shogun.
Yeah.
What is Shogun? Shogun was a novel written by James Cavill.
Yep.
Back in the 1970s, I believe, if I remember correctly. And the big thing. Yeah, and the big thing with James Cavill, one of the really interesting things about him as a writer was he, if I remember correctly, he was in the Vietnam War. He was a prisoner of war.
Ooh.
And so a lot of his writing is a cathartic way for him to work through the traumas that he experienced as a prisoner of war and going through that going through war, period.
Yeah.
And as a veteran, I definitely kind of identify with that a little bit. And so what he does is he finds these historical contexts, and Shogun is his most famous work.
Right.
Period.
Well, who was in this originally?
The original.
So there was actor unknown.
So there was a. There's a
TV series. The first, I don't know.
Yeah, 1980. They did a mini series called Shogun. The reason why it was groundbreaking was because they went and they filmed in Japan with Japanese actors.
Yes.
And this is post World War II. So we're talking 1945 or 1945 into the war.
It's like 20, 30 years. 30 years.
Yeah, 30 years after the horrors of World War II, and
whole generation is very sensitive to that.
Yeah,
like, they went through that. They're like,
you're
they
talking
say horrible things about Japanese.
Yeah, you're talking about actors who are acting in the miniseries who were there for World War II.
Yeah, which is great.
Right?
Yeah.
They were there for the Emperor and everything else. I mean, you're talking about they witnessed firsthand the horrors on their island through the Pacific, and American actors who acted in this who have family who fought who know this firsthand as well. Yeah. So the fact that they could cross the divide and create, I mean, the 1980s is a beautiful piece.
It was that from Thornbirds, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the actor from Thornbirds, Richard something or other.
Yeah,
I can't remember his.
And Chambers?
Yeah, Richard Chambers. And he was
very looking guy, great, very stoic.
Well, the other thing is that Toranaga, the actor who plays Toranaga, is the same actor.
Who's Toranaga?
Toranaga is the lead protagonist
in the story.
He's a lord, and he's a Karanawa or something like that. Anyway, he descends from a long line of ancient Japanese shoguns and warriors. And so his name and his family are legend.
Yeah, and since coming back from Japan recently, with the Shogun stuff, you realize there's different clans, they all have their heritage, and there's so much more to it than the West can get.
His lineage, Toranaga's lineage, means that he should be the Shogun. But because they were defeated by the Taiko, then they
lost him on the side, so he's not Shogun now.
So he's no longer Shogun.
But he's still considered.
But
he's trained for it.
But within the story, he's close to the Taiko all the way up to his death.
Right.
So it's
still trained for it.
Yeah, and he was trained to rule. But Toranaga is this enigmatic character that
he's trained to do something he's not allowed to do.
Yeah. I don't want to dive down the story too much about this. I will just say this. So it was a 1980s miniseries. It was absolutely brilliant. The actor who played Toranaga was the same actor who did Yojimbo.
Right.
I just totally forgot his name, and I pause this.
Look it up. This is embarrassing.
Here you go. I'm sorry, guys. This is me going to my thing and going to IMDb because that's what we do.
But anyway, Shogun to me is a glimpse from the West into the Japanese culture, and for a lot of Westerners, that was their first exposure. You know, not that cinema buffs are watching all of these Japanese amazing films at the time before that. But this was the first major success of a Japanese series.
I agree wholeheartedly.
And having the soap opera stars really good looking on there started it. Then the next movie.
Yeah. So
just Cruise.
Yeah. So the actor, and I want to pay respect to him because he is legend for Yojimbo. Toshiro Mifune. So I apologize if I butcher that name, but Toshiro Mifune, he is legend. He's actually. It's because of Toshiro Mifune in Yojimbo that we have Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the primary driving things that influenced George Lucas for Star Wars. Totally. So it was a huge deal that they got these Japanese actors, and especially Toshiro Mifune, to actually play in the original miniseries. Right. Now, one of the things I'll do here before we get talking about actors that are in this and everything else is the important thing with Shogun is that it's not the Edo period, which is what a lot of people who are going to watch this, and people out in general, when you think of ancient Japan and you think of samurai and shoguns, you think The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise.
Right.
That's the Edo period. That's when That's the 1800s when European influences have been in contact with them. Yeah, they're about
that's
100, a couple hundred years worth of influence at that point. They're looking at modernizing their military and moving away from the shogunates and the bushido and samurai. That's the Edo period. And why is Edo important? Because Edo is the traditional seat of power for Japan, which we now know today as Tokyo.
But it wasn't as Kyoto.
It was Kyoto. Yeah.
Now it's Tokyo. But they had a war with the whole thing. But that's like
So anyway, so why is that important? Because this predates the Edo period and what's known as the Sengoku period. So why is that important? Because there's different formalities to the language of the Japanese language that they use.
Sure.
Compared to what we would recognize from not only modern day Japanese, but also the ancient Japanese that most of our Western ears hear when we, see a movie like Last Samurai.
Right.
Like there are different ways that you would address people in a different honorifics. Like instead of saying like, Andrew-san. Right? I would say Andrew-sama.
Right.
Because that was the appropriate way to say it. So there's just cool little touches like that in this version of Shogun.
So what time period does this come in?
So this happens in the 1800s, right
after the Civil War.
After the Civil War for us, but
I mean their Civil War.
Yeah. So what's happened is that there was a Civil War, and the Taiko, Taiko, took over and consolidated power. And this is where you have the great houses, because this is actually based on real people and real historical events that happened. Now, according to the historians in Japan, there's a few fudges here and there, and that's to be expected when you have a Westerner.
Fictional tale.
Yeah, when you have a Westerner writing a fictional tale and
doesn't understand it.
Understands it but doesn't, right? So he gets like 70-80% accurate, correct. So there's certain continuity.
The Civil War with the North and the South is a little more complicated than that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like that.
But one of the things that really is striking is not only is the Sengoku period, which is a period that you almost never see anywhere. I mean, I can't even think of anime that I watched where it's like, oh yeah, this is the Sengoku period pre-Edo. Everybody starts in the Edo period, because that's the most familiar, and you can mix in guns and cannons and samurai and everything. So it tends to lend itself to that. But one of the things that really impressed me with this is that what the staff did, what the development staff did, the writers and the script writers and the producers, which one of those producers for the new miniseries, this Shogun, this miniseries, Shogun on FX and Hulu. What they did is they tried to be as historically accurate as they feasibly, physically, possibly could get to.
And how's it look?
It is stunning.
Yeah.
It is visually, it is eye candy, it is stunning, because they capture the grit and the grime of that era, but they also capture the cleanliness and the orderliness and the beauty.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that really struck me from episode 1 was that, and this is not a spoiler in any way, shape, or form, but just watch this when you watch this series. When Cosmo Jarvis, who plays Blackthorn, who's the European English Protestant sailor / pilot, the guy who actually steers the ship.
What country is he from?
He's from England.
England, okay.
Yeah. And so
Blackthorn makes sense.
Yeah. So when Blackthorn washes up on shore and
Did he kill him right away?
No. So
that's why it's important in the time period.
Yeah.
After time period, they killed him right away.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the things that comes out of that is he keeps referring to the Japanese as savages.
Right.
Because to Europeans, they're savages. So they're not educated in Western European ways, right? Vice versa, the Japanese in Japanese refer to him as a barbarian.
Yeah. Like
right? They're both calling each other the same dang thing.
Yeah.
Because to both of them,
cultures off.
Their cultures are so different, and each one thinks their culture is superior, and that the other is inferior.
Still do, but yeah.
Yeah. So it's amazing.
Yeah.
And out of that, what you get is, that's one of the beauties of the way that this story unfolds, is the fact that we're introduced to this Japanese culture through the eyes of this European pilot. So we hear it, we understand it, it tastes and feels familiar.
Right.
So you see this world through the eyes of this European pilot.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is that these script writers, what they did was they took the English script, then they translated it to Japanese, but that's modern Japanese.
Right.
That's not the way they spoke back then.
Right.
And so then what they did to make it as historically accurate as possible is they went to a Sengoku period playwright, which is a playwright in Japan. I didn't know this was a thing, but
they do puppet shows and everything, so they have to have that.
Yeah. So because they do
that time period.
Kabuki theater and things of that nature, and they do historical recreations of their ancient theatrical productions, they have playwrights who actually specialize in the language.
Right, it's changed.
And so what those playwrights did was they then in turn took the modern Japanese and recrafted it into the actual language that you hear on the screen, and you get to read in the subtitles of the Japanese dialogue if you don't speak Japanese, which unfortunately don't speak Japanese. There's an old joke, what do you call someone who speaks 2 languages? Bilingual. What do you call someone who speaks 3 languages? Trilingual. What do you call someone who speaks 1 language? I'm American. So, guilty as charged.
Isolated.
Okay.
We used to be. Okay.
Yeah. So, where that comes into play is that you have these lines that are spoken in this series from the Japanese side.
Yeah.
And when you read them, it's poetry.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Wow.
And they express so much depth in what they say.
Right.
In how it's said.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And I think that's something through this series that really...
It's like Shakespeare.
Yeah, but it's not thee, thy, thou, thou.
No,
I mean, it's totally like they're speaking to each other, but it's the honorifics, and it's how do you speak to a superior versus a contemporary versus an underling, right? And that structure that exists in Japan.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's completely stunning. So what I'd like to do is absolutely beautiful what they have done to be historically accurate here, not just, and it's the little details too.
Yeah.
Like the way they built
costuming
sets. The sets, they actually physically built these sets.
Is it a big budget or?
Yeah, they got a sizable budget, but I'm going to tell you what, they absolutely used every dollar for exactly what it was supposed to be.
So Disney did this?
Yeah, it's Disney, and because they own FX and Hulu are the labels it's under, but Disney owns them as the parent company.
Right.
And this is...
So they did something right this year?
Yeah, and this is...
Two things.
And the thing that I deeply appreciate in this current environment we find ourselves in with Hollywood and Disney and all this other craziness that's going on out there in the entertainment universe is that because Hiroyuki Sanada, which we would recognize him from The Last Samurai, now Shogun, he's been in John Wick.
Yeah.
I mean, the man is moving into legendary status as an actor internationally. As a Japanese actor who's not just well known in Japan, but also internationally, and you recognize his face when he comes on the American screen now. So
was he Godzilla?
I don't remember. But the big thing with Hiroyuki Sanada is one of the executive producers of this.
Right, but I thought he had a big role in the last. I could be wrong, but the last Godzilla with the series.
Yeah. So I don't think that was Hiroyuki.
No, I got the wrong guy. Keep going.
So, but with him, because he's an executive producer, when they were in Japan filming this, he brought in movement directors.
Yeah.
Like, that's how incredibly accurate this is like, how does one walk across, how does a male samurai, robed but with swords, walk across a floor to approach a superior, bow down and go to the floor correctly so that all the movements themselves are not a disrespect to your superior.
Right.
I mean, it is brilliant. And Hiroyuki Sanada, absolutely, hats off, brilliant acting in this, Andrew. Yeah. I mean, he portrays Toranaga. He is an enigma.
Right.
He is unapproachable.
Right.
Minowara, that's what it is. He is a Minowara. He is a man who could be and should be Shogun. Yet he chooses not to wear that title or that position.
Right.
He chooses. Yeah. So that there is peace and there's no war.
Right.
This enigma of royalty, yet at the same time there's these breaks and these moments of interpersonal connection. Yeah. And he's also a chess master.
Right. He's doing stuff for the Japanese. For the country.
For the country, but also for himself. I mean, don't get me wrong, for himself and his own clan as well, mind you. So, and all these machinations that are in play that he is at the center of. He's the spider at the center of the web pulling strings and trying not to get caught in the other spider's webs.
So how is this compared to like Game of Thrones?
Oh my god, Game of Thrones looks like a sad second.
Yeah.
Here's the hard part with Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones,
fiction,
I love Game of Thrones. It's fiction fantasy. You got dragons, you got the White Walkers.
It's a little dark. It's a little dark.
Yeah, and here, because it's a historical drama, you don't have that, but it has all of the court intrigue and all of the cultural intrigue and the backstabbing and how does one work within the courts of Japan and where does this foreigner fall in this and how does he not trip over his own swords and his own pistols and his own you-know-what or stick his foot in his mouth because he's there to extend the olive branch from the Queen of England to open trade with them.
Right.
And become partners with them, superseding the Portuguese who had complete and abject control over the island and had hidden the island for years and years and years.
On the maps.
Yeah. So there's also that intrigue too from the European side where the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church and then all of that other intrigue.
It's all in here.
It's so huge and that's massive. That's why it's so hard to fit all this in.
How many episodes in the first season? There's going to be more than one season?
I believe so. I haven't gotten to the end of season 10. It's the episode 10, but it looks that there's no way that they can wrap this all up in this last episode. There's absolutely no way unless it was rushed and it was just force-fed through. So they're going to have a season 2.
What is your thoughts on scoring this season 1?
Oh, season 1 is a 10 out of 10, man. Yeah. I mean, this is like I said, I reserve that I don't give that lightly. Yeah. And it speaks to my love of the Japanese culture, my love of Bushido, my love of samurai, Miyamoto Musashi, and
So for Old Man Gamer, that time span, what will this be like watching for the first time? What would you compare it to in our past that we've watched?
Oh God, I mean, like if you're old enough, it would be like when V was running on. Do you remember the miniseries V, the original?
It was great.
And it was like you can't wait until the next episode comes out next week.
Like what the heck's
and you literally forego all commitments to make sure you're at the TV. Because newsflash, kids, if you're watching this, back in the day we didn't have a way to record TV, not even on VHS, and so if you missed your episode, you missed your episode.
Yeah.
And so what did that translate to? It was that classic old adage, must-watch TV, right?
Everybody in the whole country watching.
Yeah, everybody in the whole country. That day you knew that a good swath of Americans are going to be sitting on their couches, tuned in with their families, and Nielsen is recording and saying, wow, this was a big event. Yeah. And so it's like with V, where it's like you couldn't miss the next episode. I would also liken it, I mean, and this is where it does come to Game of Thrones, where it's like, Game of Thrones got to a point where it was like, you were waiting on bated breath for the next episode to come out. It's like you were antsy in your seat. Like,
so it's so visually stunning, the acting's great, the story's great, the plot's great, everything about it is just a masterpiece.
It really is, honestly.
How long is each episode?
Each episode is roughly an hour.
So 10 hours.
Yeah.
So this is equivalent of like 3 or 4 good films.
Yes.
It's done like that.
But it is 100% worth the watch.
It's just the first season.
Yeah, and realistically, they're probably going to get a second season out of this.
Yeah. Well,
because they said it's a limited.
You're right.
They said it's a limited run series.
We have the whole thing mapped out.
Yeah, it's a limited run series. There was a sequel to Shogun that James Clavell wrote.
Right.
But it's.
Yeah, it sounds good.
It's a pale second. It's kind of like it's.
Well, it's because it's Babylon 5. We create the first 5-year loop and.
Yeah, it's kind of like watching.
So they said no, 2 years we're done. We tell the whole story in that time. That's what we want.
Well, yeah, I mean it's kind of like watching Star Wars Episode 1 through 6, and you're like, wow,
right,
okay, and then 7, 8, 9 come out.
You're looking forward to it.
And you're looking forward to it. I mean, you and I went and saw them in theaters together, and we were waiting on bated breath for the very first episode 7 to come out. What was it? Not the Rise of Skywalker. What was the first one? See, that tells you how much I really.
So we really don't care.
Yeah.
No,
but when that first movie came out,
yeah,
there's some great actors in that. But when the first movie came out, we were waiting in bated breath, and when we walked in, we were like, okay, well, that wasn't so bad. It kind of felt like a retread.
Maybe it's a retread.
Yeah, but
we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And then 2 came out, and at the end of 2, I was like, and done.
They just killed it.
Done.
And 3, they tried to revive it.
Yeah, well, okay, not to make this about Star Wars, but I will just say that The Rise of Skywalker, I actually just had this conversation today with someone else who, I will say this. The beauty of Star Wars, not to get totally sidetracked from Shogun, but I will say this, and you can agree to disagree with me if you want, but the beauty of the first 6 movies is this. The first 6 movies are the rise and the fall of Anakin and the redemption of Anakin Skywalker.
George Lucas always wanted to do.
Yes, and the redemptive quality, the redemptive moment of Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, which speaks to my soul, man. It is the love of a father for his children that supersedes
everything,
all past sins.
And what I see with this comparison is that if you like the first 6, no matter what generation you dropped in of Star Wars movies, you'll like Shogun. It's that quality.
Yeah.
It's not the last 3.
Look, because I mean, I will tell you this.
Thank God for the Japanese taking control.
So for myself personally,
it is what it is.
For myself personally, where does Shogun fall as far as must-watch TV? If you haven't had a chance to see on Apple TV Plus, it's Foundation.
Oh yeah, which is awesome. We'll talk about that some other time.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Foundation some other time. That is one that has actually flown under the radar. Like it's a big production.
We'll tell a funny story about my mom, who's passed recently, because she actually had a long conversation and interaction with Asimov, and he made a show on her afterwards. So that'll be a fun part to talk about Foundation.
Yeah. But that said, so Shogun, Old Man Gamer rating is 10 out of 10, and that is just
single gamer, family. Is it family? How's that? What are you talking family?
Okay, family. No.
What age can this be at? So it's more like a 7 out of 10 for family gamers.
No, for family gamers, I'm gonna put a 5 out of 10 because
it's not made for family.
There's not language issues.
So it is Game of Thrones level of violence.
Yes. Oh no, it's even worse than that. I'm gonna say Game of Thrones. I mean, like, there is a scene.
I haven't seen it, guys.
There is a scene where cannons.
No spoilers.
Okay. There is some very, very, very visceral graphic violence that is total horror level, body, blood, gore type stuff.
Okay.
And you are also talking about samurai,
right? What they do,
who are a refined group of individuals who have done nothing but prepare to fight and win wars on behalf of their lords. And the greatest honor is not to live to a ripe old age, but to die in service of your lord.
Right.
And that means the brutality that comes with it.
Yeah.
Where they are like Old West gunfighters that you see in the old westerns, where it was like, you're such and such, meet me outside, you lily-livered, Skinner, yellow belly, snake, whatever. And they go out there and they gun each other down. And there's nothing. While it's beautiful and graceful in the actions that they take to fight, because if you...
The outcome's horrible. People die dismembered.
Yeah, let's be really honest. They're using katanas and naganatos and very sharp weapons of war in a very personal way against human bodies. And they reflect that damage completely. There is no shying away from it.
So for Old Man Gamers, most of us probably like military history background. This is perfect.
Yeah, 10 out of 10.
And for family, it's something you watch with your wife, and there's interactions, I'm sure. And
I mean, if you've got, and again, like we've said before, we're not here to tell you how to raise your kids, but just know that the level of graphic violence in this, and
there's an adult team,
and there is a few scenes that are definitely highly adult in nature. No spoilers here, but there is 2 major scenes where 3. That I can think off the top of my head, where they are interacting with a tea house, which is geisha, right, which are prostitutes, all right? So I want to make it really clear that is there as well, and so there is some very adult stuff in this.
But having said that, this is an amazing series. This is great for
and a single gamer. If you're over the age of 17, 18.
Yeah, watch us. Give us your comments.
Yeah, please.
We like to respond to this. And, you know, I was in Japan recently. It was one of my lifelong things to get there. I went there for the game show, Tokyo Game Show, and just really enjoy their culture. And this is just another extension of that. So, from an American point of view, we thank you for Hulu for making this, and the people in Japan supporting so much of the famous actors and directors and the set designers and the animation and everything that went into that historic stuff, at least the poetry. And I really feel that this is something I'm going to enjoy watching the next couple weeks.
I think we're going to do a deep dive on Shogun pretty soon here, like an actual deep dive. Yeah. Stay tuned, kids, because we're going to be doing doing one on Fallout here very soon.
Oh yeah, we waited on Fallout just because we have other friends who want to engage us with it, so we're going to do a little different background for that. Yeah. But it's also one of our favorite series of all time.
Yeah, well, of all time.
So we want to take our time with it and just let it marinate and then get it from an old band gamer point of view.
Yeah, and then we'll also, because we did Rebel Moon Part 1, and so we need to do Rebel Moon Scargiver.
Different opinions on this. But yeah.
Okay, we'll see. Go. So outside of that, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Please, yes.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And share.
Please make sure that you hit the, I think it goes like this, so, you know, you see them always in the videos doing this, and I'm going to screw it up, but hit the like button and the subscribe button, or if I got that backwards, hit the subscribe button and the like button, and make sure to leave a comment down below in the comment section. We'd love to be able to respond back to you.
Yep.
Yeah, so thanks for joining us. You guys have a blessed time. Again, Andrew, thanks for joining on the couch, man. Always fun. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.